And
we're
rolling.
So on the album, the first song that we have, and I think we were discussing this actually during practice tonight, was Rage of Angels the first song we wrote for the record?
Yes. When we were done with The King and the Thief,
right,
I wanted a very powerful song to intro the next album.
Because the first two records had the real soft intros, the sort of the building keyboard or guitar things. And we wanted to just come right out of the gate with something brutal.
And before we even started writing it, you had that riff, that heavy, shreddy riff. And you're like, that's how it's going to start.
Yeah.
That's right.
Pretty well set it in stone from that moment.
Yeah, that's right. Now,
we had a working title for that. Now, this is explicit lyrics, kids.
Yeah.
So the working title for Rage of Angels was Face because I wanted the album opener to you in the face. Okay, end of explicit lyrics.
I feel like it did, too.
It does.
And quite well. It does the thorough job.
And then Brian came along and rewrote the intro after we already did it, and it's even more of an FF of sorts, and it's a great live thing.
A little bit, but as far as Joe laying down the tracks, that was a good starting point for me, because as soon as I jumped into the project, I was like, holy what am I in for? That first song I heard when you guys invited me out to the cave the first time, I was like, I don't know if I could do this, man. I don't know, but...
We thought the same thing.
Yeah.
Now, what's funny about Rage is it does start off, I mean, you can really hear sort of our thrash roots. I mean, you can hear some of the stuff that we grew up with, but then in true Foolsbane fashion, it has this weird left hook. I mean, there's like a verse and a chorus, and then off we go into... Fusion of all things. And I'm still trying to remember, how did that get written?
That originally was my little bass riff under that. That was just main drums. The guitars fade out.
Yeah.
And then for about like a million measures, we just riffed off of that. And I think we even played it live like that a few times. And we said, you know what, we can do a lot better than that. So we sat down, we structured it out, and cut that little bass line down to, 4 measures?
Mm-hmm.
And then you started playing your guitar part.
Okay.
The bum 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 bum
okay.
bum bum bum, and then we build it off of that.
Okay. Now
alert.
I always I've joked about it, and it's turned out that to be true that on each one of the albums I have gone out of my way to write at least a section that is impossible to put a guitar solo over. And I know it sounds like sadistic, and I mean, maybe part of it is, because, hey, he's my best friend, so I have to torture him. But what has turned into a joy is to watch Tracy take those ridiculous things and weave solos over the top of them. It's always interesting. I mean, it started back on Revelation, on Alpha. That was the first time we wanted to kind of test him, and it's always cool.
So you did it like 4 times this album. That was just great, man. Wow.
But I mean, I think
lived.
Yeah.
Did you die?
It tends to pull out some fairly interesting feel, and just this will come up again and again as we talk about the songs. How many lead guitar players do you think there are out there that ask the whole band to help him write his leads? I mean, there's nothing selfish about the guy. In the moment when he could be justifiably the most selfish, he steps back and says, what do you guys think? What should I do here?
Remember this, I'm the humble one, man. I am the humble one, and I am the better friend. Because I complete you.
Because he completes
and your
me.
Damned dirty riffs.
So this song, too, is another one where we have yet to write an instrumental. A band that does as much chops-based stuff as we do, we've never written an instrumental.
But you're forgetting that after we had done this song and wrote it and finished the writing, as we got back into the studio, I think I said to David, I want you to play on everything that we're playing on. And so David had to go back and rewrite and write keyboard parts for all of Rage. And
because there was just the choir Oz in the beginning. And it's like, more, please.
Yeah.
You need to fill out and be part of the band instead of running off stage like James LaBrie
exactly.
or grabbing a tambourine. David stepped up and became part of the instrumental section that is Foolsbane and has really filled us out.
Oh, no question.
Felt us up and filled us out.
Oh, yeah. I remember that with King and the Thief. We added some keys in there, but I kept thinking I would love to have keys all over this. Just fill it up. And then David stepped it up. Then comes along this, which I think makes this album a lot thicker, a lot more powerful, a lot more emotional, and
just wait till I get going.
Well, and the thing is too, it definitely added to the writing. I mean, when the first two records, it was a lot of, Tracy and I coming up with progressions or coming up with riffs, and Chris jumping in and adding in the thirds and whatnot. And we wrote the music, and David wrote the lyrics, and it was this weird rigid line that we had set up, and that line really got blurred on this record because lyrics got written in other places, but David stepped up as a parts writer, which was
especially phenomenal. When we moved into the Heretic. I think that was the last song that we actually completed. And it's the next song on the album that we move into.
Yeah.
David goes, we go on Christmas vacation. Foolsbane breaks up during Christmas usually.
Most everybody went on vacation. I didn't. I was still working.
Well, you were still working, and David comes back with this piece that's written, and it's just about 8 minutes long. And he's like, hey, guys, check this out. You want to go to Sizzler? And
we did not go to Sizzler.
We did not go to Sizzler.
As a band,
and David
we've never
sat
been
down
to
and played it and sang it, and I think we all said at that point, "Hey, that's a Foolsbane song."
Oh yeah.
Did you have vocals done with that too?
Well, I was messing around on my stuff at home, and then I kept looking at the Heretic lyrics, and I go, "God, there's something here." And then I was actually doing these really choppy recordings on a little tablet at home, and I was emailing it to you guys.
That's
I
right.
go, does this work?
Yeah,
is
I
this
remember
in the right
that.
direction?
That's right.
And then you didn't say
don't
stop, so I just kept going.
Now I have some questions about this one too, because of all of the arrangements on the record, this one you wrote and arranged most of. I mean, this came in almost a complete piece.
With the exception of a couple parts that were fleshed out, it's the same arrangement.
Now, did the arrangement come to us that way because you just glued a bunch of riffs together so you wouldn't forget them, and we just worked with it that way? Or is that the way you consciously arranged it?
Just how it flowed out. I just kind of followed the lyrics that were provided, and I had a feeling, and I just kind of chased it down the road.
Well, it was a real bear to write. I know that.
I remember that.
And I know we complained to David a lot. But it's all out of jest and it's out of fun because I think it's become my favorite song on this album.
For me,
absolutely.
It's so fun to play and it's so fun to listen to. And now this is another one too that I think we got a new engine in it once we started working it live. This one came together under different circumstances. The whole
album all in
did.
The studio.
Yeah.
Here's all written and recorded in the studio.
We put this record together. We started writing it with one drummer. We finished writing it with no drummer. We recorded it with a session drummer. We're learning it with our drummer. I mean, if you think about the dynamics that have gone on inside, and the Heretic really shows it. I mean, maybe Chris can talk about that because you played on the tracks and you had to lay down rhythm stuff, and now you're playing it with a different drummer. It's a whole different creature, isn't it?
We had no idea what direction we were going as far as rhythm. A section of that song, when we started, we had our old drummer, and he had no idea what to do. There was no vision of what to do with that, so it made it almost impossible for me to write my parts. And when it came together, when Joe laid down what he did, I was like, that just incredible. But then Brian comes along, and holy man, I don't know, how was it for you learning this song?
Very intimidating at first, because I didn't know if I could keep up with the same timing on the kicks, because what Joe laid down was just mind-blowing compared to your last few albums to this one. Totally different monster, and the Heretic definitely shows on this one, I think.
I remember when we first got those tracks from Joe, and then we heard those kicks in the beginning, and thinking, well, first off, we were struggling even to find an intro for this song. I mean, time after time, we're like, oh, let's do this, let's do that, and nothing made sense. And then Joe send us tracks over like, this is what you got to do.
When we got the tracks for that,
oh, man.
a dear friend of mine had died. And after his funeral, I took Jules and we went to Jackson Hole. And we get these tracks, and I'm up there with another friend and his woman, Mike and Pam. And we're sitting out on this cabin drinking gin. And I'm like, dude, I'm pulling out my iPad. I'm like, listen to this.
Yeah.
Through this iPad, it's like...
So Mike, being a phenomenal bassist as he is and musician, what did he think?
He
when
giggled.
heard it?
He giggled just as much as I did.
Yeah.
I'm like, listen to this, even on these crappy iPad.
And you know the cool thing about that, and I'm glad that the drums and the different drummers came up. One of the cool things to watch has been the friendship, that a genuine friendship that has come up between our friend Joe, who did the sessions on this record and did the finished drums
And
for us.
rewrote tons of drums.
Oh yeah,
He
Joe
wrote so
wrote
many drums
Yes,
on
he
this
did.
thing.
But then the friendship that he and Brian have, because they really are similar in a lot of ways. Stylistically, there's a lot of similarities. And is that why you guys get along so well, because you have such similar approaches?
Yeah, I think so. That's one thing I told him a lot too. I was like, a lot of our grooves sync up together, or a lot of the bands that he grew up with, I love to death too. So it's like, okay, let's go for it. And talking to him after joining the band through the parts, because I mean, as a newcomer coming into this, cold, I didn't know where to start, even though he, put down some good foundation for me to build upon. But yeah, it's just crazy. And yeah, he's helped me out a lot, as well as you guys,
Well,
song
you're both
after song.
metronomes. You're both machines.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, we all love what we do.
He
obviously.
dropped off the tracks at my house, and none of you were there. We had coordinated it, and he the first thing out of his mouth is, "Wow, you guys are really lucky to have Brian." And I think he's in love with you, because he had that look in his eyes. It was just really cool, and hadn't seen Joe since '05, which it was so cool to see him in person. You guys didn't even get to see
Nope.
that. So
Yeah.
it was
And just
really cool
It
to
was
see
a
him.
whirlwind.
Yep. Spectacular guy. And really, I mean, he came in at the last minute and rescued this project, because we were, there was some turmoil going on, and he really kind of turned into that safety net for us when we didn't know what we knew we were going to get a record done, but I don't think any of us knew what was going to happen after that.
And I think we challenged him, too.
Oh, agreed.
I mean, we broke him at one point. I think he had to go to the hospital or something.
Yeah, he was, and laid him out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Flat on his back, physical therapy.
Yep.
We're sorry, Joe.
And we go into
The Grand Surveyor.
The Grand Surveyor. There's something magic about that song, and it happens every time we play it, and it comes out well, and there's a neat story behind it. It all sort of happened.
It's all a concept, folks. Spoilers.
Yeah, well, I mean, but the writing of the song took about 3 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had that song done in a day.
Another one that was actually built in the studio, too. We all sat in there. You were on keys, Tracy, and I think we started out with one thing. We couldn't find the right sound, and then you just hit one patch, and
that was it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you and I just started to kind of throw chords at each other. I was on an acoustic, and it just sort of happened. And this is one, I think, of the songs that I wrote, that I wrote lyrics for, and that was one of the differences. We should probably touch on that. David had written lyrics. He wrote 2 albums completely. I mean, Alpha and The King and the Thief are all David. And I had kind of expressed some interest in writing, and to his credit, David couldn't have been more generous. He said, "Yeah, man, what do you want to do? What do you want to write?" And I had this vision in my head. There's a million different comic book and Doctor Who references all through it. If you're geeky enough, you'll find all of them. But I had a vision of the Grand Surveyor, of the character, like the ultimate space hippie. And David just sort of got out of the way and let me do it. And then to hear him sing those words, that's when I knew I love writing lyrics and letting somebody else sing them.
Well, it was fun too, to step out of what I had done and kind of get some other material to kind of arrange too, because I did a lot of arranging too, which was
you
very
really
much
did a lot.
So
Yeah. And that's the thing. I knew I could write lyrics, but I didn't know if I could. I wasn't comfortable yet with coming up with the lines, with the vocal lines and the melodies. And to watch you take them, it was almost like, God, I wish I was talented enough to have done that, because you made them work so well.
I appreciate that.
Oh,
and I
such
appreciate
joy.
the lyrics though. And I remember early on though, I would like every other time I needed to edit something, I'd look up and be like, "Is this okay? Can I do this?"
And that
Do you
was the
mind?
thing I wanted you to. I was like, make it your own. I've come up with some ideas, but you just ran with it. And the cool thing about this is also how much space we left in it. We didn't cram stuff into this song, whereas in a lot of other places, we just got a zillion notes. This one, it really breathes, and I think that negative space, there's a depth to it. It's almost a Floyd-y kind of thing. And it's definitely a big part of the story.
There are about 1 million piano notes in it,
Yeah.
so you should listen a bit closer.
Well, it's easy for me to say. I think I play 6 or 7 chords the entire song. And this is the song that I get to do. Once again, one of the things we throw in each record, and it's turned into sort of a tradition. I will have one lead per album, and my lead on this one ends up at the end
And
of
it
that
just
song.
turned out fantastic
Yeah.
too.
I loved. I still like to hear it and go, gosh, man, that's like one of my proudest guitar moments. It's simple and it's quiet and it is what it is, but it still sounds good to me after playing it a million
I like
times.
writing leads with you. I get to challenge you and push you up to your limit of,
Yeah,
let's see what Jason can do this time.
right.
Here, pause on that one note. I know you want to go to the next note, but stop at that one note. And then reminding you to do that when we get back into rehearsals.
Right,
'cause
right.
You have such an ingrained technique that you like to stop in the same spot,
Right.
I guess as it
Right.
is. So it's kind of fun to push you and, hey, play faster. Do this here where you normally wouldn't do that. And
I think that's something that kind of goes, the whole band,
yeah.
we like to do that. We not only like to do that to each other, but I think we've all been open to it too. I can speak at least for myself. I mean, playing with, I've looked at the band like this. There are 2 dreamers in the band, and there's 3 just monster players. I mean, David and I are, we're the ones with dreams.
cerebral.
Yeah, we're the daydreamers in the band,
Yeah.
and then you get these. These guys are just mechanics. I mean, technicians. Tracy and Chris and Brian can outplay, most people I know.
And Brian might be a dreamer. We're still working to break him in.
Just a little bit. I'm just going with the flow of things.
But it is cool to
Enjoying
kind of
my
be
time.
at their mercy when they say, here, we think you can play, you need to play this because it makes this part work. And there have been a lot of times that I've been pushed just past my ability. And then I get to that point, and I'm like, okay, you can teach an old dog new tricks. I haven't reached the end of my ability. I can do more. And that's been cool. Every record, I think I've gotten to be a better player.
And yeah, with all your leads, I love the fact that you never have to play a ton of notes.
Right.
Yeah.
Your
is
leads
good.
are just gorgeous.
Oh, thank you.
I would love to hear more of them, because when you play, it's just all passion. I mean, that lead at the end of Grand Surveyor is just pure emotion. Yeah, and you just watch you play it, and it's basically like you're into it. And I'd love to see more of that. And I think you hold back too much when you want to do leads. You want to, no, I'll leave that up to Tracy, which, Tracy is...
Got enough notes to remember.
But
You heard it here first. They might make me play 2 on the next one.
The thing is, we all have our own skill we bring,
Yep.
and we have to stop comparing on what level we think we're playing at.
Agreed.
And that's what helps us, I think, when we remind each other of that. Then I think it opens the door for us to start to grow better. So, because we've all grown because of each other.
Absolutely.
Yep. And I think I know, at least for me, when I know that when you're playing with guys where the chemistry's so good and the musicianship is so good, I think we're all willing to take chances. I know that I am. If I try this, or if I throw this concept at them, I know they can do it. We've reached the point now where the line between imagining it and doing it, that line is getting closer and closer, and that's cool.
That chemistry is what brought us into, I know this is a silly sounding cliche segue, but it brings us into the next track. Edge of Forever, we sat down and the chemistry was so good that we played that intro.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah.
We played that intro, and it's exactly on the album as it was played and written at that moment.
Yeah,
Is that how we started that song?
Yeah,
That's
there was
exactly how it started.
It was in the studio. This is what I remember. It was in
Okay.
the studio. I sat down at the piano, and I had this little riff that I had come up with.
And I had my
Tracy
guitar.
Tracy was taking a bathroom break, and he was in the next room. And you kind of hear the toilet lid shut and the toilet flush real fast. He runs back in, puts his guitar on, and he starts playing. Like he couldn't wait to get back in to play, and it was just really magical.
It was the best potty break of my life.
It's always nice to be inspired when you're in the can.
It might have still been trickling down my leg. It was that good.
Now, if I remember right, then the goal right off the bat was to get into your riff. It was we came up with David's beginning, and
then
we need to have a segue to get into that
Have I
proggy
ever
thing.
told you how
Right.
much I hated that at first?
I know you did. You guys used to call it the Hobbit Riff. You hated it.
I don't know why it rubbed me the wrong way. Now I think because there's a part written there, and I'm joining the crowd, so to speak. It's grown on me to where I really don't want to have it gone. So,
Well, it's not so hobbity that it.
No,
that
it's
we
not.
took the swing out of it. I think that's what the.
I
think that's what did it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep. And that
Forgot about this one.
That lick, that progression I've had sitting around for a long time. I think you and I may have tried shoehorning that in somewhere. I mean, that's an old one. That's been around since the first record, and we just never found a home for it. And this time, I think you put that cool your lead over the top of it, and we knew, okay, now it works. We've got to put it somewhere.
That was as soon as I was sold on it. It's when your lead went in.
Yeah.
Then it all made
that's
sense.
Still a tough sucker to play.
Is it?
It's just I don't know. It's so succinct, and it has to be just.
I remember you writing that, and you were getting so frustrated.
Oh my gosh!
And I was so happy.
I was still practicing that exact lead before you guys got out here tonight for rehearsal.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this, and with Edge of Forever, that's those first 4 songs are one story. And that was definitely me writing as a comic book guy. The first 4 songs I wrote the lyrics for, and it was. And once again, the influencers are there. I mean, there's some Buffy the Vampire Slayer in there.
A lot of supernatural.
There's a lot of supernatural. There's a lot of Doctor Who. There's a little bit of The Watchmen, believe it or not. Standing on the red plains of Mars is Dr. Manhattan from The Watchmen. I always wanted to write this big,
I'm glad our
beautiful
album doesn't have a big blue dick.
No, it does. He's playing keyboards and singing.
It's pretty white.
I wanted to get this big space opera, this story in my head out. It was all of these big sci-fi themes that I loved so much. And, and in any other band, I might get looked at like, hey, we're all grown-ups here. We're not going to do comic books. Meanwhile, you guys just jumped into it. I mean, the imagination was big. It's a sci-fi movie, and we had an unlimited, special effects budget. So we could do this big, huge feel. And the finale of this song, which is the finale of what we called the Cosmos Suite, these first 4 songs, I listened to this, and the drums and the guitar, the lead guitar, they have a huge job to make it continue to move, because you, David and Chris and I are playing essentially the same thing through the end. David's vocal also has to create that finale feel. We play the same thing forever at the end, but the drums change the dynamic big time. The vocal changes the dynamic, and Tracy has to weave that whole thing through and give it that build, that heft.
Well, if you listen, that was written like bookends. The intro lead is the outro lead.
Now, see,
there are just slight changes in the notes but it's the same lead. It bookends the song.
See, now I need to go back and listen to it in that
How did
context.
I not catch
I don't
that
mean
before?
You didn't?
Maybe because
No, I
I
don't
know
care
it's
enough.
the
The
I've talked
exact
about
same
that.
lead.
I don't pay that
Almost.
much attention to
Almost.
So, you know.
That's been one of my favorite parts of the song.
Yeah, that was very intentionally written that way.
One of my favorite things about one of my favorite parts of The Edge of Forever was one of the first times Brian played it with us. When he knew he was comfortable with it and he wasn't trying to play it, he was playing it. He was performing.
Yeah.
Was when he came in with the kick drums at the end. Now, Brian is probably the scariest drummer I've ever played with. Like, I mean, in a band situation, as far as just ability with his instrument, and when he
his
went
drums.
when he first went into the kicks at the end of the song, I thought he's lost his place. He doesn't know where we are, and there's no way he can sustain this that long. He started too soon. Nope. He just crushes it to the end. Tell me something.
What's that?
As a drummer, I mean, you're damn near the athlete of the band. What do you do to get that kind of precision and that kind of speed along with that kind of stamina? I mean, do you have to... I mean, I realize the answer
And
is
still
practice.
groove.
And still groove.
Well, I mean, we all kind of fall into our own groove as musicians anyway, so I'm just used to what I've been doing. But the rough tracks that I got sent from you guys helped out a lot because I listened to that album over and over and over until I thought I was going to just throw it out the window and be done with it. I'm like, nope, no more, you know.
Screw these guys, I'm going home.
Pretty much. But no,
That's not
as the months went on, after we learned the material, after we learned the older material for the first show and everything, I just kind of fell into this groove. It's like, okay, this is going to happen. Like, give it all I can get, you know? And like I said, I just fell into that groove and just went along right with it.
Because you've definitely... It's like, you know, this band we've had our share of drummers, and we've had our share of rhythmic approaches and production and writing. But everything you play now, songs that, you know, were written 10 years ago, there's an innate Brian-ness to them now. It's a completely different spark. It's a completely different chemistry.
Oh, it's so tight and fun to play.
Yeah.
It's just that precision.
Well, and, you know, when there's spots in the song to where you can kind of improvise a little bit more parts or make it a little, you know, shine it a little bit more, that's what I look for pretty much. And I'm pretty much going off of the guitars the whole time regardless, just because that's what I'm drawn to as a drummer.
Right.
I'm going to follow this guy, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do my own thing. But I don't know. The guitars is what did it for me on this new album. It's just like, holy they went from that to this.
Right.
I got to be a part of this. You know?
That's great.
That's good.
So, yeah.
Because we'd like to keep you around for as long as possible. You
Yeah,
know?
if you don't mind, we'd like to keep you forever, if that's okay.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, like I said, going through this whole process, the audition process, going through the old songs into the new album, and then what we're doing now as
Right.
far as the new material, it's like, holy there's an open canvas for everything. We can throw all sorts of genres in here, all sorts of speed, whatever, you know, whatever it calls for.
Absolutely.
But can I still say that first show, almost 3 hours, and you were with us less than half a year, and you were
Nailed
there.
it.
You nailed it.
That's right.
Yeah. And I know we weren't gelling quite yet as a band. That was the one thing about that first show when we were on stage. I could just feel that we weren't gelling. But we still screwed up so bad in the middle of Kill or Be Killed.
Yeah.
And we pulled it off as a band.
Yep.
The crowd didn't know a damn thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we f***ed up so bad that... Oh my gosh! I thought the rails.
Oh, yeah,
I
I
was going
almost
off
stopped,
the rails.
to be honest with you. I was like,
I felt that
Can't hear
stop
nothing.
trying to push its way out
Yeah,
there, but it
don't
just,
stop, don't stop. And then, you know, we just do what we do, and we lock eyes, and, you know, you wink in time, and then start playing a note, and then boom,
And
we're right back on.
Yeah, and that's a hell of a song
And
to get lost in.
everyone thought it was a performance stunt.
Yeah.
It was, guys. I swear, it was a performance stunt. The screw up was
And it's
nothing.
kind of like that first show was like a forging process. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to be a little sloppy, but going down the road, of course, just a couple weeks later, it was
us learning to play live again after 2 years.
We gelled that next show.
Yeah.
We felt like a band, and I was comfy. And
Brian's baptism by
warm
fire.
blanket.
Yeah. Brian had the baptism by fire that first show. The second show,
so did
we were a band. Oh, yeah.
Well,
we've been off stage for 2.5 years.
But still, the four of us been playing music for, 14 years together now.
And then
it doesn't take long for us to just get it back.
Yeah.
6 months with
Yeah.
the
6
band.
months to
And
2.5
come in and
hours.
be able to
Yeah.
just
Unreal.
do what you did.
I was a little intimidated. I won't lie, but
I mean,
like I said, I killed myself with those albums over and over and over until I got it to that point or to where you guys were like, okay, that'll work.
And-
Let's move on.
And throw on top of that, hey, we're going to do a bass drum thing.
Yeah.
We need to get together and write
Yeah.
that on top of over 2.5
right.
hours of
Tabula
music.
Rasa
So,
was freaking
Yeah.
awesome.
And it's awesome. I hope that stays in our live set in one way or another forever. I mean, it's just such a cool
It was
piece.
great watching you two be so nervous to bring it to us, too. I don't know
know.
why you guys
Oh,
were
man.
nervous, but, man, you
Doing
looked
the
like
first couple
you looked like
times.
whores in church. It's fat guys at a buffet. Oh, God.
well, in a way, that's kind of, that goes to the next song on the
But
album.
before we get to that song,
Okay.
I just wanted to say one more thing about Edge, because Edge to me, and I don't mean to cut off that awesome segue, but I just wanted to say, Edge is such a complete piece of music to me. It's hard to pick a favorite on this album, but Edge is one of those songs that, as we're writing and we started recording, when I first heard the front to back of that song, it put the final nail in the coffin of what I want to be doing musically. I know I'm in the place I want to be. I know where I'm going. I want to do more of that. And so Edge is a very, I guess, close to my soul kind of song.
Well, was that the first one that you stepped up big time on the keyboard?
Yeah, that was
was-
and I'm playing keys the whole time. I wasn't at first, and everybody's like, you got to fill in those empty spots.
And now, Tracy, that's interesting you said that, because one of the things burnt into my memory about Edge of Forever is Tracy and I were listening to, I think we had just finished tracking it. I mean, we'd finished the majority of the rhythms. And we listened back to very rough mixes, and he said, that's why I make music. That's the band I wanted to hear. That's the song I wanted to write. And I thought, we did something pretty monumental there, and it is a great capstone, a finale to this space opera that we wrote, this big, grand, universal thing. It ends so big, and
yet so silently.
And
Spoiler,
then-
by
yep.
the album, you'll get to hear it.
and then.
Gentle sunset.
It's a
going
whole
back to the
other-
collaborative process,
Yep.
between members. Now we're back to a song, the next one.
Yep.
Talking about getting together and actually writing something.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you
just a
guys
couple
got
of
together.
members. So, I got to David, said, what, let's get together and write something. Let's just spend a little extra time, hang out, see what comes out. And you already had somewhat of a structure.
Yeah, with the next song, it's called "Darkened with Shadows," and I actually I've done a bit of I've attempted to write poetry once upon a time, and so I have this really epic poem. It's the original title is called "Keeper of Greed," but it's way too many words to fit into a song. I thought, well, maybe what if I put a song version of this together? I think actually it was promoted from you guys. Could there be a song version of that? And so,
Yeah, the keeper poems are just so cool,
Yep.
and I'm glad that we've got to integrate them
Yeah.
so much
Agreed.
throughout the stories now, even more than Darkened. So.
Yeah. So Darken is the first time Keeper material shows up, but Keeper of Greed turned into Darkened with Shadows, and Chris came out and we started playing around with different. I guess I had been messing with it a little bit, and he comes out and he produced it a little bit. So he said, "Hey, do this and do that," and then we kind of ironed it out in just one or two.
It was a couple weeks.
Yeah. And that was another one of those where we're like, okay, let's go play this for the
let's see what
guys.
they say.
And we both had that same feeling that Brian and I did playing Tabula Rasa,
Yeah.
where it came out, we were nervous. It's like, all right.
Because we were nervous in a different way. I mean, well, you were. This was the first time that he was experiencing the Foolsbane filter when you came out with Tabula Rasa. You already knew about the filter, and I believe that's what makes us nervous. He was just nervous because there's 4 guys that he's trying to impress.
Explain that. What is the Foolsbane filter?
Anytime you bring something to the group is going to feel free to butcher it if it needs it.
Right.
And that's actually a productive process, because it's like, well, if it's fine as it is, great. Or if we feel inspiration to make it something different. So it's not about being punitive. It's not about being destructive. It's very constructive in its feedback process, wanting to
progressive.
take it to its full potential.
Yeah.
So
speaking of Darkened, you were the guitar player on that.
Yeah, that's right. I played guitar. Hey, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
And it came out as a full guitar piece, though.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then poor Jason and I were like, okay, here's another one. What the f*** are we going to do?
Yeah, what do we do now?
Okay, this was like Heretic Part 1. It was like the pre-Heretic, because Darken came to us like 4 years ago.
Yeah, it's in June.
And so it was like, just scratch our heads, and I don't know what to do. I'd play guitar, Jason would play guitar, I'd play a different guitar part, David would keep playing, and Chris would keep playing, and we're like, it's just something's not right. And then I think I just finally sat down to piano.
Yeah.
And put on my piano
that's where
hat.
It clicked. Once you started to play piano on it, and I remember when this one came out, the first thing that I was struck with was how different it sounded. Mm-hmm. Because, once again, so much of the guitar and the melody, especially on the first two records, that came out of a partnership of, Tracy and I've played together for decades. So I think a lot of that, it wasn't that we were trying to monopolize it. It was just we were the guys that had instant guitar ideas. You guys brought out a completely different melodic sense.
Well, it came out as David Folk, alternative folk. That's what I like to call it. Yeah. David's a great writer.
Very much
David
so.
writes fantastic songs. He writes more traditionally than Foolsbane, I guess would be the best way to put it.
More typical stuff that you'd hear like
first
on
bridge
radio.
chorus,
bridge chorus,
bridge chorus out, right?
Well, the old me, I think the new me does Heretic. So
the new you does Heretic,
terrifying.
But Darken with Shadows sounded and felt like the disc that Jason and I got when you first joined the band.
Absolutely.
13 plus years ago. Yeah. And I think it still has some of that feel even in the final version, but it was filtered pretty hard.
Yeah, well, and now what I remember too was that's where I got to hear there's a lot of Chris in there. There are structures that Chris put in there that once again you and I wouldn't write, and I know that a lot of it is Chris because I heard the same kind of exotic tonal approach in Tabula Rasa. Chris writes amazing riffs. Mm-hmm. And his riffs are sprinkled in throughout all of the records, and they'll be either crazy technical or just so tasty, and so you almost want to just get out of its way and let it happen. And I remember when you guys came in with that, I thought, Tracy and I used to call you guys the kids because you were so young when you joined the band, and I think sometimes we still saw you as the kids, but when you guys came in with this complete piece, I mean, we filtered it, but for the most part, the structures were there. And it was just, I knew at that point, man, we've got something really spectacular here. Because everybody in the band is capable of that level of creativity.
So, but back to the more traditional type of song, where I don't know if it's traditional, typical, whatever, it's not, it's atypical for us as Foolsbane because of the structure. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, because we're, 3 albums in now as a group, what's it like to have an album that has a song structured like that in the middle of everything?
For me, it's very refreshing. When we play the record live, when we're playing it, performing it, song, from beginning track to the end of the record, and when I listen to it, it's a very refreshing change because the Cosmos Suite, those songs are so huge and so dense and so packed with as much as we can put in them, and then there's this big breath. And Darkened with Shadows is this open, darkly beautiful, poetic thing. It's
easier to perform passionately, I think, is what it is for me.
Absolutely.
Because I can just fall into it, and I can play it, and I can shut my eyes, and I can sing, and I get to listen to what Chris is doing, and sometimes that screws me up because he's got some great walking
I'd have to say that to me, Chris is the shining star on that.
No question.
Listen for Chris on this.
Well, and the great thing is, if you get to see us play it live, and you should come see Foolsbane live, watch Chris. Chris and I share a side of the stage live, so I spend a lot of time, in Chris's. We're in each other's space. But when I get to just sit and watch him close his eyes, and it's not that he's being pyrotechnical, it's that he's feeling it. Mm-hmm. That part of the universal song that he pulled out for that is so purely Chris that he just falls into it. You talked about me playing leads with passion.
Right.
You play that bass part with so much passion.
Well, I think one of my favorite things, definitely my favorite thing about that was getting together with you, David, and basically helping produce it. You had kind of the structure put together, and I was like, let's add dynamics to this. Mm-hmm. Cool, I can hear that getting much, more powerful here, then bring it down right here. So the song's full of these ups and downs, and I just feel that the whole way through. There's so much emotion, and then you're singing, the lyrics just bring it all together. And so it's easy to get lost in that song.
Yeah, and it shows. Because Tracy will do the same thing. I get to look over. I don't play a lot on that. Live, I play more on it than I did on the record. And watching Tracy close his eyes and be the spectacular piano player that he is pretty fantastic. I'm almost an observer of that song, but God, I have the best seat in the house.
This song also, to me, there's an interesting dynamic. Our long songs, to me, and a lot of people that have given us feedback say it's hard to realize that they're that long. But we have this song, which is much shorter by like
3 minutes.
3 minutes than everything else, but it feels longer.
I agree.
It feels in context, which is bizarre. So it's one of those weird things.
Yep.
One interesting thing, too, is when he wrote it, I didn't hear any drums actually being played on this. And then when drums were put to it, wasn't really crazy about it. So Joe went and made them work. The song couldn't be the song it is without. And then we get Brian, who comes and puts his own spin on it, and it's incredible.
As long as we're talking about that, and especially you bringing it up, we talked about how there have been a lot of guys in the drum seat in this band over the years, for one reason or another.
Because we're
probably
nailed it. And you've been, the constant part of the rhythm section,
right?
And so you've been the guy immediately who was kind of put into the, okay, time to train a new drummer. What was it like transitioning to Brian?
A lot easier than I thought it would be. When I first heard you, when you gave us your demos, right, I was thinking, this guy can play. He's fast. But I was thinking, I don't know. How am I going to, how are we going to find our rhythm? How are we going to lock up?
How are we going to gel?
You play with so much aggression. And over the years, we've gotten this different feel in the band. We're not always aggressive. We're not always just going all, balls out. And so I was kind of nervous when you came along, thinking, I don't know, are we gonna, we're gonna fit together? We're gonna be able to stay tight, and with no time, it was easy as could be.
We just had to fill each other out, especially that first.
After filling each other up.
Yeah, that's right.
There's been a lot of that. That's great.
But no, after those first few months jamming out here, that's how I felt too. It's like, okay, we got to have a groove. I know you guys are stuck on kind of one track mind. Okay, we need to do this, that, and the other. Okay, I'm just along for the ride. But it was nice over those few months to kind of just, take a step back and gel with everybody and go, okay, he can do that to that point. He can go this way. He can go balls out, whatever, wherever, And that's what I like about this band is that it's from a different spectrum to another. There's no in between. There's no, we have to do this. We have to do this. We have to do this. It's just.
Do you feel more like you're not along for the ride anymore and driving the bus occasionally? Yeah.
Oh, sure. Sometimes a little bit, yeah.
Sometimes a little bit. We're working on it.
It's a work in progress.
Yeah.
It's in production.
So, as for my part, too, in the rhythm section, we've gone through drummers that didn't actually learn their parts. They would change it up all the time.
Oh, that just pisses me off.
And
that's my
I could
favorite
never
thing of Brian.
lock in. I'd write my parts, but it was almost like I could never play what I wrote. I almost had to guess and then just try and keep up with the drummer. One, with whatever they're playing, and then tempo-wise. We had drummers that could not keep a tempo, or the drummer that was too damn lazy to actually play something that should be aggressive here, and he half-assed it. Now we got Brian, who will keep a tempo,
Writes parts, remembers parts, and plays those parts.
so I can actually write to you.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, too. I mean, when you're all on the same kind of mission of, okay, we need to finish this song or finish whatever we're writing on, everybody needs to be on the same page. It's not just, oh, I think I'll just do this or half-ass it and I'll worry about it later, you know. You got to be on top of your as far as I'm concerned, you know. 'Cause that's why I said it was very intimidating at first, because I was like, oh, I got all this material to learn and 3 months to do it. Can I really do this? But, I mean, it's been a awesome transition from what I was playing to what we're all doing now, and I honestly think we're all a little bit happier.
Oh, yeah, we are.
Just a little bit.
My way easier to play now.
Yeah.
Way
agreed.
easier to play. I mean, you can't even imagine for single notes or a single run that I expect to be the same way every time,
Right.
so that I can nail it without having to throw in a swing or throw in a skip or, you know,
Or pull a note
hold a
because a
beat or
beat disappeared.
Pull a note. Yeah, it's
Right.
just
Now we go. This is where something happened in the band that I think I've made this comment to you guys separately. I think we did things on this album. In some cases, we did things we always did for the last time. And I also think we did things for the first time that may very well be parts of what we do forever. This next song we did is completely different than anything we've ever done. And this song existed once before as the most sparse, empty piece we had.
Yeah.
And
in
it is-
Youngbane.
Yes, early, prior to Alpha, prior to the first record.
It
And
was
now,
2 parts.
as it stands, it has the most instruments
Tried to
on
live
anything
and-
we've ever played. By leaps and bounds. And I'm talking about Underneath the Stone.
Yeah, Underneath
so
the Stone.
This one, Jesus, where do you even start with this? David was so passionate about this. Not only did he drive it, we're going to make this song work on the record, but he's also taken the song that I thought, well, it's impossible to do it live. And he said, no, it's too good to just give up on. We have to make a live version of it. This has been your baby for years.
No, I guess I never really thought about it that way, but you're right. I guess
You've been the driver on this one.
Well, in a way, I'm going to kind of step in there because the whole New
he had a
Orleans
role.
idea, you, Jason,
Yeah, that is
were the one
true.
who really pushed. You were like, I want to get a song in there that has that New Orleans jazz feel to it.
Yeah.
A New Orleans story.
What we needed was
It was more the story than it was the swing. I loved the feel of New Orleans. It's one of my favorite places in the world. There's kind of a New Orleans as the sun is going down. You don't have to believe in ghosts or magic. It doesn't matter because it believes in you when you're in New Orleans. And you can honestly feel like if a ghost walked up to you, you wouldn't be that shocked. And I think that was the cool thing about it. Once again, touching on if we can imagine it, we can do it.
Yeah.
This band nailed it.
And just a little background for Underneath the Stone. It was, thrown together early on, 2004, 2005.
Yeah, it's an old
and
one.
we played it live a couple times. It was just a bass line and me singing it. The lyrics, though, after I started to mature and pay more attention to what the hell I was doing with it, because I think at first I was just so excited to be with a band. Whatever came to mind came out. And that kind of happens,
And then nothing changed.
except for this one, because I said, I think this has a lot more potential than just being left behind. There's something better that could be done with it. So I retooled the story, and I decided instead of saying a bunch of lyrics that at one point might confuse somebody, I thought, well, what the hell? Why don't we make this into some sort of visual potential, like tell a story that people can start to imagine in their mind, and it kind of pulls on, in a way, there's a Romeo and Juliet side to it. There's and then the first lyrics you hear, the first vocals, were actually the last thing that were written lyrically.
Yeah, because you brought that later.
Because
check this out, guys.
Yeah, so the whole song's written. We'll get to all the other fun parts about it, but the whole song is written and everybody's ready to be done, and I'm just like, there's something missing. The story is not completed.
The song that will not die.
And my wife
was so sick of working on this.
And my wife gets some credit here because I sat at home because I knew the pressure was on to get it done. It had to be just right. It had to match, and it had to be the right cell, or it wasn't going to get on there. And she kind of let me banter back and forth. She sat there very patiently and let me kind of go, all right, okay, needs something. All right, what about this? And she's like, well, maybe not that. Okay, what about this? So I really appreciated her input on that, and you know, exactly what was needed, I think, that made the song the story that it really is. So, and it's
well, we hashed out the lyrics for a long time even before that, because we reversed. We took the song, split it in half, and swapped the end with the beginning. And that's when it finally gelled.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, what happened?
It was all backwards up until that
totally
point.
Forgot about that.
Well, because we got together, we had a few ideas, and then there was one night, Tracy, you couldn't get together. So we decided again, let's go over to David's house and kind of hash stuff out. And that night, we got a lot of parts. We're like, okay, let's do this, do this, do this.
That's right.
Well,
and
yeah,
so
and you
we
guys
wrote
all
a lot
came
of
back
it.
with Jason's Hoodoo Man part.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
A lot of that was written. That was one of those nights where it just all
It
came
just
together.
happened. That's right. I'd forgotten about that.
so
Probably the
easy.
most bizarre writing we've done, based on how we did it mostly in the studio, and then things started to progress.
Yep.
It was just it's a fantastic song, though. You have to hear it. But
The song took 5 or 6 months, 7 months to complete.
We
had to learn how to write and record horns.
That's
because there are
and we
trumpets,
wrote that. That was the
clarinet.
first song that we wrote after we had made
saxophone,
we'd
trombone.
made
trombone.
a huge change in the band lineup, and I think we were desperate to write something with no limitations. I think we wanted to see how far can we take this.
Always keep working.
Yeah.
Always keep working. That's all. If there's anything I can say about the musicians that are in this band currently, the work ethic is off the chart. We want good songs. We always want to be creating something. And I feel like this one, it was like, we took it as a challenge. We took it as, how far can the creative element in this band take this song? And we said, we want a horn section. We're going to change instrumentation. We brought in upright basses. We bowed basses. We built a horn section,
piano,
and then
harpsichord.
had to learn how to arrange horns.
Jason and I got our daughters to play on it.
That's right.
That was awesome. Thanks, Chris and David.
Absolutely.
And then our daughters got to play clarinet on it, too.
That's exactly. There's even a section in there that
you're pretty in pink.
my oldest daughter Madeline was one of the clarinets, and your daughter Kat was the other clarinet. And I remember Madeline inverted one of the runs. We had a downwards run. She brought it back up.
Yep.
And one of us caught it and said, Did you do
that.
that on purpose? And she said, yeah, I think it sounds better.
They were very excited to write, which was so cool. It took us forever to just start, again, gelling as musicians together.
Especially adding four more people.
They're used to playing to a band director.
Yeah.
and sheet music.
And
it's put in front of them.
And we're like, okay, kids, let's write this.
Yep.
All right. What note sounds good to you there? No, that's not right, man. We got to come on. Start using your brains, guys. Let's start blowing your horns.
We're guitar players, so we're thinking in E's and B's and D's. They're playing clarinets. They're thinking
B flat. Let me translate that.
We're transposing it. Thank you, Marshall Markland, who was able to play enough instruments that he could translate for us, and ended up playing trombone on this. I think he might have done a little bit of trombone.
Yeah, Marshall saved my life because I'm like, okay, explain the horn to me, kid, because I'm not a horn player and never played in band.
Yeah.
He's like, it's like this in this key.
Yep.
And so, I get it now. I can transpose.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
I think we started to just fly, and David bought a
I bought a little
$50
$100 trumpet.
That's right.
Off of Amazon.
And Chris brought out his trombone.
And Chris had pretty extensive horn experience. I mean, Chris was a horn guy in school, so he'd been in some really good music programs, which was also, I mean, he was a bedrock. It was an anchor for us.
After what, like 13, 14 years without playing trombone, it was kind of tough to get back into. But getting with those kids,
Yeah, man.
and it felt like being in high school
Those
all over
sessions
again.
were fun.
They were fun.
And
a lot
that's
of
one
fun.
of my
See
favorite things
them.
to tell people about that song is, these were just a bunch are just a bunch of high school kids just having some fun with it.
I had to
watch-
figure out how to play upright bowed bass in about
that's
15
right.
minutes, too.
Yeah, and you killed that part, which is another challenge for me was learning how to play the upright
And-
for the whole
and
song.
playing
And then
this
write it
line.
on the
And
fly,
thanks, Shane
too.
Delalio, for
Yes,
the
thank you,
loner on
Shane.
that. That was
Beautiful big old
that
bass.
really filled out that song.
Yep.
Because we
Yeah.
pushed the boundaries, this is one of those songs where everybody right away sort of backed off saying not a live song.
Right.
Because honestly, when the vocals start, I'm singing, but I'm also doing the piano part, and there's a trumpet part behind
Yeah.
that.
And I'm playing guitar. I'm playing piano.
I've got a guitar line in there
So,
that isn't.
I
that isn't
played
live
French
version.
horn. I got to play like 5 Starship Enterprise notes in
That's
there.
right.
See if you can catch it. It's
That's
my
right.
favorite
Yeah,
part.
look for the French
Starship
horn in there.
Enterprise coming up over the Earth. The sun is cresting.
Yep.
You're
over
welcome
the-
for those notes.
But despite that, I still felt like you said earlier, I still felt like there's got to be a live version of
Yeah.
it. And I think we have a very respectable live
Agreed.
example of it's not the same on the album.
No,
No.
but
You know,
it's still
just as
cool.
fun.
One interesting thing about that, too, is we had no idea what the drums should even be.
Yeah, I was just going to
Oh,
bring
yeah,
Joe
yeah.
into this because holy we
question
got
I
those
have for you, Brian. What do you think? I mean, Joe, in my opinion, just nailed it. He does fantastic
Oh,
job
he's got
with the
this
drums.
pretty shuffle in there, and he's
Yeah.
back to rock, and then he brings freaking washboard
Yeah,
Yeah.
washboards.
brushes.
on the snare.
Well, that's what I mean, man. Like on this album, you guys went from one spectrum to another. I mean, this song was just off the wall, but it fits so well on this whole album as a concept piece, it seemed like.
Yeah.
And then all his little, his washboard parts, the little bongo parts here and
I
there or
chuckle
whatever,
every
you
time
know,
I
it's
hear it.
just... He's a good musician. I give it up for him. I mean, like I said, he laid a good bedrock for me to kind of build my own stuff on
Yeah.
top of that too. But this song is just an absolute blast to play live with the live version. But that one, as far as the studio version goes, is just amazing.
This was another cool example of, and I've got to hand this to David. You know, he's one of the most generous musicians I think I've ever played with. He is more than willing. He doesn't. His ego doesn't get hurt. As a matter of fact,
Anymore.
He takes
David
it.
has quit the band 753 times.
on this
He
song,
learned how to go home and cry.
David,
Chris,
I'll cry myself all the way home.
I told you to stop predicting the future.
On this song, David said, I want Jason to sing this, and this. And on this song, I play almost no music. On the album, there's a guitar in there that I play.
Which you questioned at first, but
I
it's
did.
a magical. And
And
it
now
has
it's
to be
yeah,
there.
now I can
It's-
now
You
it's
really got to stop arguing with me.
And especially with the Vestman, production on that,
Yep.
the mastering, your guitars come through.
yeah.
That they needed to be there. So
And
yeah,
that was
stop questioning him, dude.
That was like a 2-hour session one day, you and me. I think it was just you and me in the studio. I
Play
brought
these
my
notes. Put that on there. Do this, Jace. Come on.
and that was it. It was my strat.
Play what you feel.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know about it. Okay. Listen.
Just
I'm
shut
going
up.
to turn it off.
Yep. That's
And
right.
I think that's the moment you went, oh.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I just, I never want, and I think we all feel that way. If it serves the song, it stays. If it doesn't serve the song, why waste molecules with it? You know what I mean?
And-
Dump it out. And
but-
I didn't want it to be in the way.
And by changing who was singing at different parts in this song, it's because it's the story that it is.
Right.
The characters had to be switched around, and so I couldn't be the lead vocal. I couldn't be. We had to give it the diversity that the
Yeah.
story needed, because of the characterizations involved.
This
And
is the one I was adamant about, the 3-part opera section.
That's
too.
right.
Yeah.
Even though it's not opera, but
But there are layers of vocals during when Jason takes over that it's just, and you can hear them on the album, but you have to choose which part to listen to.
Yeah.
So have some fun with that.
Absolutely.
And I will say though, I absolutely love your vocals, Jason.
Oh, thank
on
you,
that.
man.
It's been a pleasure to hear your tones come out, and every time I listen to it, I'm listening to really for you.
it's great.
It's
so great.
And I love, it was fun to return to being a lead singer because I had been a lead singer years prior and getting myself back into vocal shape and to being able to do it. But it's still so refreshing when I am, up at the top of my range and stretching out to hear your voice come back in against mine. That the dynamic between these two big lead vocals in there is so fantastic, but your voice is that comfortable friend that I'm so used to. I mean, I've heard you sing for so long. Having your voice come up against mine like that is just one of my favorite spots on the whole record.
This is the first album where we finally figured out how to get our vocals to gel too. We haven't
Agreed.
said that yet, but in the past, I've always done my own
Backups.
harmonies and backups.
That's right.
And this time, it's
Rewind,
been-
listen to The Heretic.
Oh, gosh.
It's
The harmonies in that are just
Unreal.
and they're a bitch to do live. Holy cow!
But I mean, our harmony vocals, we figured out that Tracy, Jason, David, when the three of us sing together, very different voices, very different timbres, very different feels, but they
in
chord
the zone,
together.
man.
I think we worked on it harder this time. We were more willing to.
Yeah.
And that's what made it so cool going into the last song is starting out with just David doing a vocal line, then bring in
On Lies?
That's right.
Yes, going into what
Building
Lies.
up, 'cause then I come in
And then
early.
Trace comes in, and then Jason comes in and completes the 3-part, and it's so powerful. And that's just a highlight of the album is you three, your vocals.
And we had, I think that's another, once again, I said there are things that we did on this record that I think are always going to be there. I think we figured out that's a big weapon in our arsenal. The fact that that the 3-part harmonies work, that we have 2 guys that can lead vocal. We have 3, but one of them really doesn't like to sing lead vocal. I'm looking at the guitar player in the corner dressed in black. But the fact that we now have those palette, we can add that number of vocals with 2 amazing piano and keyboard players, with the bass player who also plays trombone, with the drummer that seems to have more limbs than most human beings do. I mean, suddenly...
David and I are duetting now for crying out loud on piano.
Who would've thought, huh?
That's phenomenal.
I play almost more piano on this album than I do
It's crazy.
guitar.
Yeah.
It's
and
crazy.
So, and I've been able to help David help him craft his art and hone his, I was raised learning piano.
Yep.
And David is an amazing ear musician. So being able to throw technique at him, hey, maybe this will be more comfortable.
It's refreshing. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I soak it up too. I feel like I'm the kid that didn't, that should have had the lessons, but I'm getting them now, and
You're great. It's just
one of my favorite things.
And
I watch,
but I'm
like
not
a
singing
hawk.
lead vocals. Screw you guys.
And you can hear the new tonal, that new tonal palette is at play on this record, and that's what I mean.
Back to that.
Yeah.
David teaching me, he taught me a lot about vocal range and working with notes when we were working on those harmonies, because I sang my balls off.
Tracy
just trying
worked.
to be in key, and so we didn't have to tune up so much and I'd bounce off David. How was that? Nope, it's not right. How was that? Oh my God, I have to sing this the 47th time. That one blew my skirt up. Okay,
There
great.
you go.
Let's move on to the next.
Yeah, I think that is something
like
to say.
next week.
I think David and I were more, because I did when you were playing piano in school, taking lessons. I was in choirs, and I'd been lead singing in a band, and so I was more of a natural singer, as is David. Tracy's work ethic he was going to be that third voice, and I don't think it took a lot of goading from us. I think he heard it and he went, yeah, that worked. He was enough of a musician and enough of a player and enough of a writer that he knew, I've got to make this work. And it was a joy to watch you. You were such a workman when it came to your vocals. You made it happen. You willed it into being.
My throat still hurts.
But it totally pays off. You hear those three voices together, and it's once again, it's something we've just started to do. Wait till you hear us sing on the next one.
And the keys too. I don't want to get too far in the future because it's all about conflict.
Agreed.
But a new keyboard since the completion of Conflict with a lot of diversity and versatility, and I'm excited for where we're headed. But
It doesn't feel like, it feels like Underneath the Stone was the one that took all the there were no more fences. We knocked down every wall, there's no longer anybody saying that doesn't fit Foolsbane.
Mr. Gorbachev, break down that wall.
And we did. Now we're comfortable with saying we can put anything here. We can play anything we want there. There are no rules to what Foolsbane is. Hell, no one's going to book us anyway because we can't play the metal clubs because we're not metal. We're too loud to be jazz. You know what I mean? So
we won't fit on that stage anyway.
We bring too much gear to play here. We don't do covers. So let's stretch out. Let's see how far we can take this thing. And then we transition into the finale of the record. What Lives Become.
Transition back, because Chris already
segued it. That's the second time he's got it segued.
Thanks for ruining that segue.
I was really proud of Chris for doing another stand-up job, and he wasn't cut off by me this time, and that somebody had to go ruin it.
Tell you what, when I edit this, I'm going to make it sound like Chris nailed that mother.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know that there's much editing to be done here.
No.
Yeah.
I can tell you one thing, though, that was great about this song was that I had come out with lyrics.
Yeah.
I had this idea. I had this song title in my head
Beyond the
for
Six
months.
for this
Beyond
one?
the Six.
Yeah.
And I had written this whole set of lyrics, and then I went to David. I was like, please take these. Do something with them. And originally, this song, I think, started with your vocal idea.
Yeah, I forgot about that. I'm glad you brought that up. So I had
You're
been
welcome.
so inspired by, now I am not who I'm about to mention anywhere close. I'm not trying to compare, but he inspired me to do this, and it was Ronnie James Dio. Because we watched Radio City Music Hall one time, and there's that lick that people sing that it's not really there, but it's there. And I go, well, I'm going to cheat. I'm actually going to put a lick there. And I had this in my head, and it kept going over and over and over again. And I go, I think it would be really cool if we could start a song with this vocal line. And so,
and then I wrote that guitar behind you.
Yes. Well, and the vocal, the guitar behind it was inspired by a previous song that was in the scrapyard, basically.
Right.
And
It was.
I said I kind of hear. It was a song called Pop Ag, Long Story.
Oh, that's right.
Short. And
That's
so
right. We did take that.
Well, it was
tooled
that dun dun dun, but then it was like, that's just not going to work. Let me just follow you. And
Yep.
So it has all basic elements of that original Pop Ag thing, but that's neither here nor there now. But it was just really fun to go, okay, let's do that. And so that was actually a Dio inspired intro. I don't know if you ever knew that, but
No.
well, that song was a bear to write too. And after we got that intro done, nothing was working, so I just took my guitar off and sat and listened.
That's one of my big memories of this song. This is where I started to I gave Tracy the nickname the Grand Arranger. Because my memory of putting this song together was, we knew we needed one more for the record. We knew this song had to be on the record. I remember we had come. We were like, we're short one. We've got to get this one done.
And it had to be a heavier song.
And it had to be a heavier song. We had to write a rocker, and I think we were kind of angling for a song at the end of the record. And I've never had a shortage of riffs. I can write riffs all day, every day, forever.
This one has a lot of those pieced together riffs.
That's
I
right.
Think, from
and Tracy, I would play it. It was like Tetris. I was standing above, throwing pieces down, and Tracy was grabbing the riff and going, okay, we're going to take this one, turn it sideways, put it there. Take that one, not that one, the next one. The one you just put that there. Now take that one and put it here. And he put together the structure of that song. That's pretty much what it was. And then you're right, the vocal arrangement is what tied that whole thing together with your amazing lyrics.
Well, it was actually
It's
a combination.
Yeah.
Right. you took them and you were like, well, I have his other set of lyrics. This is actually going to work really well.
Complementary to each other, and that. But I regret, though, not saving a hard copy of either one of those, because now I kind of know what's yours and I kind of know what's mine. It doesn't matter really in the end, but at the same time, I always like to go back and compare where did it start to where did it end up. And this song reminds me every time I sing it that I didn't really save the originals because it was all digital and I just mixed them together. And
that's okay. We put them together and they had a baby, so you know.
Chris and David sitting in a tree.
And it's another one of them that it's got some great. There's a little bit of everything in there.
It's it kind of to me we took all these steps forward on this album, and this one just kind of says it's kind of a history lesson. It's kind of it reminds us of our roots.
Agreed.
It's still new and it's still with the progression that we've had, but it's still very classic for what we've done in the past.
It feels like one of our older rockers. I would agree. It feels like something it could have fit right next to Revelation on Alpha. And it wouldn't have been out of place. Mm-hmm. We probably couldn't have played it real well back then, but you know what I mean? And this kind of leads me to, it's a great finale for the record. It's a great neck breaker. It's a fun...
it'll snap some necks, that middle section.
And now as we look back over... the years that it took us to make this record and the turmoil and everything and the finished product, it's done. It's out. We're giving it to people. We're sharing it. We're playing it on stages. I look at what's next. We have so many more weapons in our arsenal, so many more paintbrushes, so many more colors. What happens next? That's a good question. What happens next?
More, better.
Keep pushing.
Different.
Keep staying open.
Little yellow different. I think Nuprin went off the market, man.
Did? What have I been taking?
Really old Nuprin.
Yeah, but the future is just... I'm excited. I've been doing this a long time. I'm an old bastard. I'm almost as old as the oldest guy in this band.
Almost.
Almost.
That guy's pretty old.
Something young, something old, something blue. We borrowed David from somewhere, I'm not sure. But I'm excited.
Me too.
I am excited. I can't wait to write. I've just been, I know I've been hyper-focused on getting Conflict done and hyper-focused on learning it so that we can get this sumbitch out.
Yeah.
But I am excited, and I know we've been starting to write, and I know we're just kind of starting to scrape that rust off. Mm-hmm. But I've been able to start locking in with Brian, and you're singing and bringing some new parts, and I'm excited. The engines are starting to pump. It's like hell on wheels, man. You can feel that steam starting to pump, and just
that new keyboard David has, though.
Holy
Christ. Just everything, man.
The whole band has a new coat of paint. I think we're in better shape musically. I think we're better players. I think we're better producers. I think we're better writers. Mm-hmm. I think we came out we walked through hell to get this record done. And I think we came out better friends. I think we came out tighter and stronger and more open to each other's creativity.
Yeah.
That to me is thrilling. When I can come out with lyrics or David comes out with something laid out on the keyboards and everybody just says, yes, man, we're going to do that. That's awesome. And I look forward to hearing what Brian brings. And I look forward to hearing...
Me too. Now we just got to start herding the cats. That's the next step, because everyone's starting a fire and everyone's...
Yep.
But it's still, we got to herd those cats. Yeah. Start writing music.
Conflict isn't over yet.
That's right.
Not quite, but man, we've already started writing Atlantis. Yeah. We've already started writing The Visitor, and those two things right there are already an album worth of music.
Yeah, that's true.
And we've got Hearts on the Line. We've got other stuff. I'm actually starting to write lyrics. So that's a...
Oh, that's right.
Good. Yeah.
Yep. It's there. I don't see
So do
any limit as far as the creativity from this band. I remember once upon a time worrying about, God, when are we going to run out of ideas? And I realize now I'm going to die before I've played everything that I think I have in me. I think we're all in that I love the other bands that we play with, but I feel like the guys that I'm in this band with right now, I really am with the perfect band for me, the cream of the crop. I mean, I'm playing with the best of the best. Where
Me too.
It doesn't get much better than that.
I can't wait to start
Absolutely.
rocking, get Nat's ass with it, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Let's put these 7 notes right there. We're all going to lock in and.
That's right. Okay.
I'm just looking forward to getting out there and playing with you guys again, playing
hell yeah.
live. We get up on stage. That's where we belong.
How many
and
more
we get
heretics will I bring out?
As many as you want.
That's
I have
exactly
permission
right.
from someone.
Keep it rolling.
That's exactly right.
It's not
Yep.
what you were saying yesterday.
It's one thing.
Yeah, but yesterday you sucked, David. Today you're all right.
Okay.
We've been in the studio and cooped up for a long time, and
Now he definitely goes home and cries.
And I'm excited now to open the doors up and get us on cool shows,
way home.
big stages, and put our music out in front of as many people as we possibly can. Because I'm proud of what we do. I make no apologies for what we do. And the name of the band is Foolsbane. If you're not real bright, you're not going to get it. And if you don't get it, that's okay.
That's why it takes us so long to learn our music.
Because we're kind of stupid. And, I mean, with the new super monster behind the drum kit, there's nothing this band can't do at this point. And from me as your friend and as your brothers, I am so thankful to play in a band with you guys. You make me a better musician. You make me a better person. And God knows I need all the help I can get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I second that absolutely. You need all the help you can get.
Third that.
I don't need much help. You, Trace?
No.
You're doing pretty
No,
good.
no, I'm doing all
Brian?
right. I'm doing
You're
all
feeling
right.
pretty
Brian's
good.
doing great.
Yeah.
All right,
I
well,
know, David.
on behalf of 4 great guys and me, enjoy conflict and wait till you hear what we do next.